So now we're gonna explore some options on how to use the crazy dog to pass to the north-south. So generally when I get to the crazy dog position here and he starts to step, a better player is gonna use this top leg to pull the bottom knee to their chest. So timing is really important in this spot because as he pulls his knees to his chest, he's already getting closer to my grip to start breaking and then pull me into whatever guard that he likes to play. So the moment I feel that his knees are retracting, I have a little window, right, to either A, push the leg out, or B, pull the leg in. Both are doing the same thing, which is clearing that initial frame, right? So as I'm here, I'm looking to the shoulder. Okay, he starts pulling the knee in. The moment I start to feel him pushing in, instead of grabbing on his leg, if I'm gonna start to go north-south, what I try to do is I try to make a shin grip. So notice how there's some slack here right in the shin. I'm gonna roll my palm underneath his leg, and I'm gonna clear the leg off of my arm. So whenever my partner's knee is to their chest, two things are easy to do. Square him up, okay, because he's balled up, and also go to north-south, okay? So when I'm working this option, okay, and I start to clear and run to the north-south, I'm actively making sure that this arm has inside position on his knee, okay? Because if I don't do a good job here, I might be able to make his knee heavy, okay? And now it's gonna be hard to run to the outside. So as I go here, I roll my elbow underneath, I start lifting up this bottom leg, squaring his far hip and far shoulder on the mat. Now I'm gonna start to run to north-south. Because his elbow-knee space is tight and he's focused on being a ball, it's easy for me to run here, get to the north-south position. So there's a lot of different ways that we can deal with the north-south. And there's a lot of different ways they could frame. He could keep his elbows to knee tight. He could be on my legs. He could be framing my chest. Right now, we're gonna assume that we had really good timing and his elbow to knee space is really tight, okay? So when I'm in this spot, I'm gonna be looking, first of all, at his feet. Are his heels away from his butt or are they close to his butt? If his feet are coming towards me, okay, I'm not focusing on his knees right now. I'm stacking, okay, and looking for things like leg drags. If his heels are to his butt and they're out of kind of that range, then I'm focusing instead of grabbing his feet, I'm focusing on his knees, okay? So when I'm here, the feet come towards me, look, I'm trying to push him down, but I stack him, right? I try to stack him, he's bringing him down, look, I start pushing them away, and I start focusing on his knees. When I focus on the knees, look how I'm gonna control, okay? I'm gonna roll my palms underneath like this. So I'm using my fingertips, right, like kind of on his quad. The reason why that's so important is because if I just kind of roll my palms like this, can I push his knees away from his chest? I may be able to, but I can't use my hips, which is really important for this spot for me, okay? Instead, right, when I go here, I start to roll my palms underneath because when I roll my palms, my fingertips, and I roll my palm underneath, I can then start to kind of thrust my hips forward like this, okay? So this mechanic is really important. I like to do this a lot. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my knees, I'm gonna go on the insides of my feet like this, okay? And I'm gonna thrust my hips forward like this, okay? Now I don't need in this spot to like literally drop my knees to the floor. I can sometimes, but generally, right, by thrusting my hips up and rolling my knees inside, this is gonna give me the power to move his knees away from his chest. And once I move the knees away from his chest, that's the timing that I need to use to close the space with my head, okay? So it's gonna look like this. So I got the feet away, I roll my palms underneath, and I'm gonna kind of like thrust my hips forward, use my knees, and lift, okay? Now, obviously it's to get them all the way to the floor, that's gonna be unrealistic, but to get it enough from the chest, just for my head to win to the inside. So as I go here, watch, I go up, and I bring my head inside like this, okay? Once I get my head inside the pass box, he can no longer bring his knees to his chest. Now I can pick a side with my head, okay? So I'm gonna tripod. So I'm gonna like laser my head to either side of his hip, right? I'm gonna bring my head to the side, look. And then now I'm gonna tripod off of my forehead here. My hand is checking the side of the hip. My shoulder is pinning his belly button. And my head is blocking the outside of his hip. So here he has literally, like, it's almost impossible for him to get out here. Once I get into this spot, it's pretty simple. Like, he's gonna use his hands in some way to push, but as long as I'm not lifting like one of these 3 points off, he can't move his hips, all I have to do is just find a way to kind of stable his hands, start clearing I can start like pinning his armpits with my knees, however it may be. He can push it in a variety of different ways, but really I'm just trying to find a way to like pin his bicep or hands to the floor to clear. And then once I get rid of his arms, then I can start bringing my head back up and progressing to a side control if you'd like. If you like to play from north-south, right? You have lots of options from here as well, right? So again, I'm here, I'm working the crazy dog. He steps, he starts pulling his knee in. Look, I get the shin grip and I clear. Now, if your partner is on his side hip like this, it's gonna be really awkward for you to run north-south. So for example, like if he's, look how he's on his side, look, it's gonna be really awkward. I'm gonna feel I have to cover like a lot more distance. And I don't like to run north-south if they're on their side. What I want you to think about is as you clear this top leg, lifting this bottom leg up and squaring them up, okay? So as and the timing is gonna be at the same time I'm walking around his head. Look, you see that? Now I've won north-south, I've gotten to the north-south. Now that I'm here, look, I see that his feet are down, so I'm on the shins, like I can switch to the knees, okay? Once I'm here, I use my fingertips, I turn my knees inside. Look, my knees and my feet are gonna be in a line. Look, I can't do one without really doing the other. So as I go here, I can just press up. Once I do this, I use my hips, boom, I bring my head to his belly, okay? Now if he tries to bring his knees to his chest, look, it's gonna be really hard. Now from here, I can start to pick my head to one side, okay? Like this. I'm gonna turn so you can see my hand on the other side. Look, my hand's there. Look, here you can like lift my hips. You can literally just push my hips in the sky. Look, I can tripod here. Look, you can do a headstand. I'm very comfortable, okay? I can start moving to the side, but realistically, you're not gonna switch to a side control until you've dealt with the arms. So if his arms, so let's say I get to this spot and his hands are still framing me, okay? If I start to alleviate, let's turn this way. If I start to alleviate like this tripod and start to go to side control, like his hands are engaged, he's just gonna press me off, and a good guard player is gonna recover. What you have to do from here is find a way to start pinning your partner's arms to the floor. Look, right? I generally start to aim for the armpits. Look, and that'll go to isolated wrist. It's pretty easy from here as long as you understand conceptually that you just gotta pin an arm. Look, here, right now I'm on the bicep, right now I'm on the arm. Look, now I can start to release. There's no bench press from there. But if his arms are engaged and you try to run, a good guard player is gonna do that and they're gonna get immediately back to their guard. Okay, so let's do it again now here. We'll just show the timing of it with a couple different angles.